All right, welcome. Today, we're going to jump into a really fascinating cybersecurity mystery. So picture this, a major cyber attack happens. Data's been stolen, systems are a mess, but when the investigators show up, they find, well, nothing. Absolutely no malware, no virus, no shady-looking files, not a thing. The question is, how is that even possible?
And that's the central puzzle we're going to solve today. This is the kind of question that just completely stumps traditional security tools. It really forces us to rethink what a cyber threat even looks like in the first place. So, okay, let's get into it.
So, let's start at the beginning, right? The scene of the crime. We know for a fact a breach happened, but all the usual suspects, malicious software, weird bits of code, they're just gone. It's like a ghost attack.
This analogy just nails it. It perfectly shows the problem that security teams are up against. They're looking for a crowbar or a smashed window, right? But the intruder, they just used the key that was already sitting in the lock. They didn't bring any of their own gear, they just picked up the tools that were already lying around the house.
This is where we finally unmask our ghost. The technique has this really cool name, living off the land. And the tools they use, they're called LOLBins.
Okay, so this is the most important part to get. LOLBins are not viruses. They are totally normal, often really essential parts of your operating system. We're talking about things like PowerShell or other command line tools. They come pre-installed, and the system's defenses are built to trust them completely.
And that name, living off the land, it's not just a clever phrase. It comes straight from survival training. Think about it. If you were lost in the woods, you wouldn't have a backpack full of food from home. You'd have to use what's around you. Find water, build a shelter, you get the idea. Well, attackers are doing the exact same thing, just inside your computer network.
So, let's talk about why this has become so insanely popular with attackers today. It really all boils down to one word: stealth.
See, because these tools are legitimate, things like antivirus programs are basically trained to ignore them. A system administrator might use a certain tool for everyday maintenance, and an attacker can use that exact same tool to steal your data. To a security program, those two actions can look identical. It literally makes the attacker a ghost in the machine.
Now this table, this really gets to the heart of it. It shows the massive shift in thinking. Old school security is all about spotting the new bad file, the malware. It's looking for a signature, a fingerprint. But with LOLBins, there is no new file. The tool is already part of the system. You can't just block it because your own computer needs it to work properly.
And this is the perfect way to think about it. A kitchen knife, right? A chef can use it to make an incredible meal, or an intruder could use it to cause harm. You wouldn't just ban all knives from your kitchen, would you? Of course not. The tool itself isn't good or bad. It's all about the intent and how it's being used.
And that right there is the million-dollar question. If you can't block the tools because you actually need them, how on earth are you supposed to spot an attacker using them? How do you catch a ghost?
Okay, so let's get into the detective work. We're shifting from what the threat is to how you actually go about finding it. And spotting these ghosts, well, it requires a pretty big change in how security teams have to think.
This right here is the absolute key. You have to stop asking, is this file bad? And you start asking, is this activity normal? You're not a bouncer at the door checking IDs anymore. Now you're a detective inside the party, watching how everyone is behaving.
So here's a classic example of what that looks like. Any one of these steps, by itself, might not set off any alarms. But when you see them all chained together one after another, an everyday office document, suddenly using a system tool to download something from the internet, that's not normal. That tells a story, and it's the story of an attack.
So what are these detectives looking for? They're looking for context. Is a system tool being launched by Microsoft Word at 3 in the morning? Is it trying to connect to a weird web address in another country? Is it suddenly trying to mess with security settings? These are the behavioral red flags. It's not about the what, it's about the how, the when, and the why.
All right, let's bring this all home. It is so important to understand that using LOLBins isn't some rare, clever trick anymore. This has become standard operating procedure for any serious attacker out there.
The #1 goal for a modern attacker is to stay hidden for as long as they possibly can. And living off the land is the ultimate camouflage. It lets them blend in with all the normal, everyday noise of a network, which makes them incredibly hard to find. They are literally turning the system's own strengths against it. And that is the huge takeaway here. So what does this all mean for us?
It means that that very first point of entry, that malicious email, that phishing link, is more critical than ever. Because once an attacker is inside, they aren't loud. They're quiet. They just use the system's own trusted tools to disappear. The threat isn't always a monster banging on the door. Sometimes it's just a whisper already inside the walls, using the very tools you trust the most. Thanks for joining this explainer.